Welcome to another edition of the Dementia Care Partner Talk Show. Now, here's dementia care expert Teepa Snow and your host, Greg Phelps.
Hello and welcome to the Dementia Care Partners podcast. My name is Greg Phelps, and joining me as usual is dementia care expert Teepa Snow. And just in case you haven't looked at the calendar lately, Teepa, Christmas is just around the corner. We've covered this topic in the past, but what are some tips you can offer? Because we're going to have small gatherings or family gatherings or big gatherings. So how do we help somebody enjoy the season?
Yeah. My mantra is celebrate, don't elaborate. So do think about a little celebration, but don't get elaborate. Um, so I have the 8 S's. Now, that's a lot, Greg.
That is,
Eight
that's
is
the
eight is more than five. Yeah.
yeah.
You got to go to the other hand. So I do have this thought about, oh, they love the celebration. It's wonderful. She has such a good time. And then she crashes. So, like, that's the challenge. I mean, somebody can absolutely have a wonderful time at this big event, but there's a price to pay. And everyone that I have a relationship with who lives with dementia will, when they are able, will say, I loved going to the event, but boy, did I pay a price. Because the aftermath, the recovery time, the what it does, I keep going until the bucket is so empty. And whereas other human beings can recover relatively quickly, unfortunately, it may take me 2 to 3 weeks or even a month to get back online. And it's like, wow, that's a huge price to pay. And so, can we tone it down, rein it in, keep it smaller? So I have S's. I have 8 S's. Only one's a fake. So just so you know, I want people to think about keeping it smaller than your initial thought. Oh, we can have a party for whatever. It's like a smaller party, shorter. Look at the length of time. How long are you wanting somebody to travel? How long be part of something? How long is the concert? How long is it between bathroom breaks? So keep it short so there's breaks. The third is start looking, is this a good sensory match anymore? Given how people respond to visual stuff, to auditory, to movement, to smells, to taste, is this a good match or is this over the top or it's not even something they like anymore? So really looking hard at, is there a sensory match or are we wanting what we used to have and what they used to do, and we're thinking about what used to be and not what's now. Um, so, rather than going for the whole celebration, maybe coming only for the dessert, maybe just coming to have something to drink, maybe just coming to chat, not to have anything except maybe a warm cup of cocoa or whatever the person enjoys. Um, and then the fourth one is making sure the social situation is one that I am okay with now, because maybe historically I really did love going downtown in New York City to the great big music hall and going inside and having the full orchestra and the full choir out there and the pageantry. And now, you know what I'd really love to do is sit at home and listen to that long playing album, with that sound. And so socially, maybe one or two people, but really people who are comfortable with who I am right now, not people I haven't seen in forever who keep asking me or saying things like, now remember we used to, don't you remember when we were, yeah. Mhm. And then the fifth S is the space a good match for me? Is the space, and it could be the temperature of space or the seating, or it could be the sort of privacy or the public nature. So, okay, Greg, so that's like five. So, what do you think of those five when I talk about that? Does, like really making yourself look hard at that for yourself, but also for the other person?
Well, it did, but then it also brought back something else that you had taught over the years, and that was the F's, because the friendly, familiar, forgiving. those come in as well because you take me to a completely different setting. I'm out of my element to start with, which can trigger. So it sounds like a great idea. Let's bring Granny home for Christmas. Just put the brakes on.
Put the brakes on.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the other three, because you got those. So
I was counting. Yeah, I was
we had
counting.
smaller, we had shorter, we had our third one was the right sensory match. The fourth one was the right social match, and then there was the right space. Now, I'm going to add in that it needs to be simpler. We want it to stay simple. Think about a single sensory experience at a time. Think about a single thing, a small, but keep it simple. Like, do I have to put on all those layers and all that dress up and do the makeup and the hair and the everything? Or is it possible I could go as I am, put a nice sweater over the top, and ta da, I'm finished? And then we have, of course, the fake C, the fake S, which is actually a C, which means circadian. Is it the right time of day for me? Because some of these celebrations, like, oh, Jesus was born at midnight, so we should go to midnight mass. I mean, I'm not sure what time he was born. I think that's a made up thing. I don't think we know what time he arrived. So, but maybe, coming to an afternoon service or going to the children's service, or maybe coming, that kind of idea, time of day, of the party, of the activity. When is it least crowded? When is it the least amount to happen, or the most, whatever it is? Um, if it's after dark, hmm, is that a good time for me anymore? Because going out and look at the lights is great, except now I see monsters sitting up on top of buildings, and this guy is all green and he's trying to get in the car, and I don't think it's a good idea. And he's just the Grinch. So with Louis body, particularly, maybe. And then the last one, which is the most important one of all, I have it on that middle finger for those of you who can't see me doing my alignment. This one is super important, trust me, and it's the one that should really be right here in the middle. How satisfying is it? How satisfying is it for you, for me? And if it is satisfying, great. But if it's not feeling really satisfying, maybe it's time to, like let it go, which is if you've done the other S's, then frankly, you're less invested, so you can let it go with less distress. But the challenge is we both have to find satisfaction in it. And so maybe it's
So,
time to have someone else besides me do this thing that we want to do, because if it doesn't work, I'm going to be really dissatisfied.
so should we start from the whose needs are being met? Like, where do we
Ah,
start on this?
oh yeah, I made an assumption about that. I guess I didn't assess that. I'm always looking first to the person who's living with, but I would also turn to the care partners who are here and say, what about you? How do we get it shorter, simpler? How do we get it, less intense? What's the right social for you? Because frankly, on any holiday, you should get what you like too. But that means maybe we need a third party to be present, or maybe four parties to be present to support so you get what you want. I mean, because maybe the last S that I didn't think of is support, maybe the right support, so that everybody's getting what they like out of a holiday,
So, Teepa, maybe
except for
this
the
is
one who wants to have what we used to have and it's not happening. Maybe that's the person who's really dissatisfied with the whole idea. Let it wash over. It's not my problem.
maybe this is your Christmas present to our listeners because you're giving some really useful information here to families as we count down towards Christmas. It's just right around the corner, and
Yeah.
you better have a plan.
Yeah, and people think, "Oh, yeah, yeah, this is gonna be a hard one," and it's like, "Okay, so what are we doing about that? What about our" we use pipes. How are we preparing? Are we initiating? Are we getting participation? Are we evaluating? And are we either sustaining or switching, depending on what's working or what's not? One of the hardest things in a holiday, I think, is to stay flexible, because we have so many rituals, so many routines, so many habits, and yet it's been a year. More than likely, something's changed. And rather than grieve the losses, let's acknowledge them, and then let's celebrate what's possible out there. And that's what I think is the most important thing for us to think about doing for ourselves and the people we care about.
Teepa, thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg.
You've been listening to the Dementia Care Partners podcast, brought to you by Positive Approach to Care. For information, go to teepasnow.com.